The first drive-in movie theater, called Park-In Theater, opened in Camden, New Jersey. It allowed people to watch movies from the comfort of their cars and became a popular form of entertainment in subsequent decades. The history of the first drive-in movie theater dates back to the early 20th century. The concept was developed as a response to the increasing popularity of automobiles and the desire for a new form of entertainment that catered to the growing car culture. Here are some key details about the first drive-in movie theater. The first drive-in movie theater was called Park-In Theater, and it opened on June 6, 1933 in Camden, New Jersey, United States. It was the brainchild of Richard Hollingshead, a young auto parts salesman. Hollingshead was inspired by his mother's discomfort while watching movies in traditional theaters. He aimed to create a more comfortable and convenient movie-watching experience that could be enjoyed from the privacy of one's car. Before opening the theater, Hollingshead conducted various experiments in his own backyard to determine the optimal setup for the drive-in. He used a Kodak projector mounted on the hood of his car and aimed it at a screen nailed to trees. In May 1933, Hollingshead was granted a patent for the concept of a drive-in theater. The patent described the idea of arranging cars in a sloping semicircle, providing unobstructed views of the screen from every vehicle.
There was a time in America when the sun went down and the whole country drove out to the movies. But for young people, the drive-in was independence. A place where you could be with friends, flirt, dream, and feel like the world was finally yours. It became the backdrop of first dates, first kisses, and the soundtrack of an entire generation discovering itself. But with that freedom came the classic parental worry, especially for daughters.
Mom, can I go to the drive-in tonight?
You're going where? With who? And you'll be back when?
The drive-in became a symbol of youthful possibility and parental concern, all at once. As decades passed, the world changed. Indoor multiplexes, rising land costs, new technology. One by one, drive-ins faded. From thousands to only a few hundred left. What was once a booming American tradition became a nostalgic memory. But here in Milton-Freewater, Oregon, the story didn't end. One family has kept the lights on, the screen bright and the tradition alive. Even as most drive-in disappeared, the MF Drive-In continued to operate season after season throughout the spring and summer. And although it currently runs only part of the year, there's a quiet hope that someday, maybe, that could change. That the glow of the screen might return earlier, stay later, and continue welcoming families long into the future. A place where nostalgia isn't just remembered, it's lived. Today we sit down with the current owners of the Milton-Freewater Oregon Drive-In Theater.
Really? Okay, guys, can I get your names?
Yes, Lori Spees.
And Mike Spees.
And who are you guys?
We are the owners of the MF Drive-In Theater, Milton-Freewater.
So, question: when did the MF Drive-In first open?
Well, the theater was built in 1953. Our family, the Spees family, purchased the property in December of 1961. So our first actual season was 1962.
And was it always called the MF Drive-In?
We don't know for sure. My dad, in our lifetime, it was always the MF Drive-In Theater, but we've found a couple old photos out from the back gate, which didn't even exist back then, and it had said the Starlight. So we started calling it the Starlight MF Drive-In Theater. And my dad, he didn't know what it was. He couldn't remember what it was before.
And do you know who might have built it?
I do not know the names of the people who built the theater. I know the land was originally owned by a farmer out in Helix, but I do not know.
So what year did your dad take ownership of it?
Well, he and his brother, Lowell Spies, Lowell owned the Dayton Drive-In, and he sold that, and then Dad and his brother Lowell bought this drive-in theater, and there was a small indoor in town in Milton-Freewater called the Rose, and then they bought the indoor theaters in Pendleton and then the Roundup Drive-In Theater, and that started their partnership. So that was in December of 1961.
So, what you can remember of your earliest memory when you guys took ownership of it? What was Milton-Freewater like at that time?
Well, I specifically remember the first time, because we lived in Pendleton until 1969, but Dad brought my brother Rick and I up here. It must have been at the end of the season, because one of the big jobs back then was to bring all the speakers inside, and we just lay them on the floor in here. So they would take them off the post, my uncle and my dad, and then we would grab the handle, the cords, and bring them in here. But coming down the hill, there was a big billboard that said, "Milton-Freewater, welcome to the pea capital of the world." And my brother and I just thought that was the coolest thing. So that would be my very first memory of Milton-Freewater.
And do you remember the first movie that was showed here? Took it over. What was the first movie that you can remember?
Well, we never. It was kind of a gradual takeover. So our first date was in 1978. My first time out here was my second date with Mike, and I can't. What was the movie? It was probably The Jerk or something. One of those.
Yeah.
And I just remember the loudspeaker, his dad coming over the loudspeaker because he knew Mike was out there. And it was, "Mike Spies, could you please come to the snack bar?" Because they needed help. So I ended up working here on my very first date, and I guess I never left. That was 44, 5, 6 years ago.
At least.
So, yeah.
What was a typical night like back then? Have you noticed the difference of what it was from then to now since you guys have been working?
Yeah, there's certainly been eras. I mean, the mid to late 60s when I can first remember things. And the crowd was pretty active. I mean, the movie was a thing, but there was always this is very much a place to go for activities, and most of them were very wholesome, but sometimes not so much. But it was more of a raucous atmosphere at times. And then a Disney movie, a family movie, Dad would play one or two a summer just to say he did. Most of the movies were Westerns and action movies, and the crowd kind of reflected that somewhat.
So are we going to just stand here, or am I going to draw first?
And then in the late 70s and into the 80s, it started to kind of transform a little bit into the Star Wars movies. And
my song.
Saw what?
Star Destroyer coming right at us.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up for dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
And things like that. And then probably the last 25 years or so, I mean, it's kind of flipped. We might play an adult R-rated type movie once or twice a summer, and it's almost all family stuff. Probably the last 20 years or so. The atmosphere it was always fun, but it's definitely tamed over the years.
So when you said ruckus, what does that mean? Tell me about that.
Well, I would guess one of my first memories. So Mom didn't drive early till I think like 1974. She didn't have a driver's license. So we would park out there. We'd be in the car. Mom and Dad would be in here working. And, right outside the back door here, there was a fight. And typically the fights were between two guys fighting over the same girl. That was typically what they were. And it wasn't like constant fights, but that was a raucous event for sure. And early on.
A few other memorable
Yeah,
things.
there's a lot of other things that went on.
This occasional streaker in the 70s.
Yeah, we had a streaker once. That was kind of before your time, but we
before my time. But you talk about.
So we had a dusk to dawn. We used to have dusk to dawn shows, 4 movies all night long, and we were literally sitting in the car out there as kids, and the projector had a significant breakdown, which was rare, but the show was off for quite a while, and the place was packed, and people were all packed in here, and a girl did this was in the early 70s, a girl did a couple laps with her top off. Mom was shoving our heads down in the car. So
that was a ruckus.
The drive-in's always been kind of a melting pot of society, and so we've, I don't want to say we've seen it all out here, but we kind of have.
So in terms of concession stand, has it always been this way? Was there ever changes in it? Tell me about, do you know about the old concession stand?
Yeah, well, the original, we're standing at the edge of the original building, which this was the size of the concession stand, and then this part was added on. I don't recall that, but it was added on at some point in the first 10 or 12 years of existence. But our pizzas, we've always made our own pizzas, and they've always been a popular item, but Lori has really just ramped those up. And our pizzas are a big deal nowadays. And in the old days, we always had the pizzas that Dad and Mom made up their homemade. They called it barbecue beef. It was kind of a spiced up sloppy Joe mix almost, but they made that by hand, and people used to come out a lot just to get that. But pretzels and nachos were never a thing until probably the mid to late 70s. I remember
pretty much just pizzas and hot dogs and popcorn.
Yeah.
Our pizzas, on a busy night, like with Mario Brothers, I think that first night of Mario Brothers, we did 126 or 7 pizzas in like 3 hours.
This is insane. That's it. I can't work at the MF Drive-In Theater anymore. Damn you, Mario Brothers.
We were putting them in and out, and that's pretty typical on a really busy night. But
traditionally at a drive-in, the snack bar is really your moneymaker.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
That's really ramped up. Our crowds aren't what they used to be, but our snack bar
since COVID, streaming has changed. But people come out just to get pizzas. You don't have to come out and watch the movie. Just order pizza, take it home.
And are there any stories that locals share with you about this place?
Oh, yeah. The first date, first activity. They're everything from
engagement,
conceptions, and engagements. We actually did a wedding on the roof once. That was during COVID. Not to change the subject, but during COVID was a very challenging time for everybody. But we were able to use our facility a lot for events that couldn't be held indoors. And so the specific event that the wedding happened, I worked with the local churches, and we had Easter services out here, which was quite an undertaking. And one of the pastors was a very skilled carpenter, and I spent about a week out here. We built a staircase up to the flat roof. They built a stage on the roof. We had a sunrise service, anticipating a big crowd, but we had every car in here was packed, and they anticipated having a second service. So we had another one like at 10. And then, so I'm getting all the cars out, and I look up, and there's a man and woman up on the roof with she's in her wedding dress, and I kind of heard that something was going to go on. So she was the secretary at one of the churches, and they couldn't have their wedding inside. So they did it.
Really? A drive-in theater?
And then probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I was just out here doing my chores and a car drove in the back gate during the day, which isn't uncommon. People will come by once in a while. And it was that couple with some friends who didn't believe that they'd gotten married at a drive-in. So really, I was able to witness that. But anyway,
So why does it stay beloved across generations? I mean, what do people not realize about running a drive-in?
what do they not realize about running a drive-in?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for a little money.
Well, I would say the number one thing they don't realize, because occasionally we get someone who will approach us and say, hi, I came into some land and I want to start a drive-in. And you start explaining it to them, all the different parts of it.
Well, that's show business for you.
And when they hear that the film company actually gets most of the ticket money, that really surprises people. And some people walk by our projector room and see that great big projector, and they think they thought there was a DVD player or something back there. That surprises them about the drive-in. But I to quote my father, I'm just the maintenance man most of the time nowadays, but there's a lot of upkeep, some planned, some not so planned. People driving their car through the fence instead of through the back gate, things like that. But
A lot of wind damage.
Yeah.
Fencing.
But a lot of times I explain it's kind of like a family farm. There's always something that has to be done. Anyway. Is that what we're doing?
Well, I'm going to answer his question.
So I'm going to go right to that. Tell me, you were saying that you guys were on Time Magazine, or how was that? Tell me about that.
Well, during COVID, there were a lot of things that people couldn't do. And we were trying to navigate what was going on as well, because at first they wouldn't let us have anybody in the snack bar, but we were out open air and people had to social distance and do all those things. So we actually got the snack bar only open, and because the film companies were all shut down too, but it started to open up a little bit, and we realized this is a really good way to be of service to our community with the drive-in. Then I got thinking, what about graduations? And so I started contacting the high schools in the area, and we had several high schools come out here and do their graduations, and they were really fun, fireworks and everything. And some of the school had very good tech savvy, and they had figured out ways to project their kids up onto the screen. So we had a lot of fun with that. Now I lost my train of thought a little bit on
I think it was Athena Weston then.
Yeah, right. The Time magazine. Yeah. So we weren't featured, but somehow a photograph of a West McEwen graduate sitting on the roof of his car watching the movie got in Time magazine. Yeah. I don't know whatever happened to that magazine.
I have it at home.
Yeah. That's right. But anyway, COVID was real time.
We had wonderful concerts. Garth Brooks. We had about
virtual
five concerts that were only done for drive-in theaters exclusively. Mm-hmm. So that kept us going that first year, just having those concerts. They were fun.
So how has the technology changed?
Well, the main thing that's changed is the digital projector. I mean, I was fortunate to learn the projector when the source of light was still an arc carbon system, and where the two carbons hit, create a little, almost look like a candlelight, shines off the mirror, goes through the lens and up onto the screen. Now, the concept of light has never really changed in projection. You've always had to have a source of light, but what that source of light is has changed a lot. So the arc carbon changed, and now they go to what's called a xenon gas bulb, which gives you, our bulbs, depending which ones we buy, are 36 to 4,000 watts. Okay, and they burn all the time, so you don't have to be back there changing those carbons all the time. So they took the film off the small reels, put the film onto large reels. They still came on the small reels, and you had to splice them all together into one big reel. And then, of course, the next big change was digital. And I'm not a very techie guy, so I can't explain how that thing comes out of a digital hard drive and gets up onto the screen.
So were you guys, when you owned it, before more technology came, were you guys using the speakers on the cars?
Yeah, yes. That's another big technology shift. That was maybe my favorite one, radio sound. Yeah, so for many, many years, it was speakers. And one of our jobs every day when we come out here, pick up the garbage, clean the toilets, and then walk around and
check every
speaker up and down every single row. And so once we went to the radio sound, didn't have to worry about that. And then you had to repair the speakers. And yeah, so the radio sound was a big time saver. And the quality's better too.
What's your hope for the next couple of years? What do you hope for the MF Drive-In to be, or what would you like?
I think we're lucky because we're in a community that definitely has supported the drive-in for all these years. And I think being in a rural area, and it is somewhat of a novelty for a lot of people, I see it continuing on. I mean, obviously our crowds are less, but I think the atmosphere is still fun, and it's wonderful to be able to afford or have a place that people can afford to come out with their families. You can get a family of 5 people in here for $22 for admission. I mean, you can't do that.
Are we live?
Yeah, rolling action.
Okay, so this photo, the original screen had a very precariously built, like just slats, a ladder. You could go all the way up to the top of the screen, which would have been about 80 feet high, 70 to 80 feet high. I never personally did that. Dad wouldn't let me, but you had to maintain it. It was a wood structure. And so somebody took a photo from the...
And then this too is the new highway isn't there yet. That's all the orchards.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's the old highway, and then it's all orchards. None of those orchards are there anymore. Anyway, so that's that photo.
That's just a picture.
That's another. Well, the Union Bulletin.
Here at the MF Drive-In. And as you can see, dusk is setting in, and we will be starting the show.
It was very common for the Union Bulletin to do stories about the drive-in because it's fairly unique. There's only 3 in the state of Oregon, and so it was very common for them to come out and take some photos, and a lot of kids liked sitting up at the playground and things like that. Yeah, and this is just another photo of one of their stories. I would say about every 5 or 6 years, the UB comes out and does a story.
This is the kids sitting out.
Yeah,
all their blankets
just sitting out. See, in the old days, everybody was pretty much in their car. And I don't know exactly how the evolution started of people sitting outside their vehicles and things, but unless the weather's crummy, more people outside their vehicles now than inside them. And the old styrofoam cups, which you can't have out here anymore. But anyway, that's a good picture. We like that of the kids just having a great time. And then that one's actually from 1980. Got the UFO thing it looks like a Firebird, old Firebird. And then one of the fun things about this picture is it shows the old intermission scene or a cartoon scene from really old film.
It's an amazing time, folks. Don't be shy. Grab a snack, take a break, give that laugh to a try. The dog's in the bathtub, he scrub a bub-dub clean. So hurry on back for the next movie scene.
And then these poplar trees, most drive-ins had a row of poplar trees to help block the wind, but most of ours had died out as I can remember, and there's no poplar trees there anymore. But
beautiful sunsets.
Those are 70s era vehicles in 1980. This one shows my dad. My dad's standing next to a mistake of a popcorn popper. We had the same popcorn popper for many, many years, and it finally couldn't get parts for it. So Dad he was always looking at the bottom line, and we used to tease him about this popcorn popper because it's no way it's big enough to. He was saving money, so he bought this smaller popcorn popper.
We have the original Hanley. Manly popcorn popper in our garage in 1952.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
I love to pop, 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 popcorn. Poppity, 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 popcorn. I want to hear it pop till it hits the top of the room. Boom! I love to pop, 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 popcorn. Poppity, 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 popcorn. I'll open up a shop and there I'll pop all day. And say, I'll pop until my shop is filled, and then I'll pop some more until I see my popcorn hop into the shop next door. I love to pop, 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 popcorn. Poppy, 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 popcorn. The best popcorn you'll ever eat. While we bought a treat, that's my poppy, 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 popcorn.
But anyway, there's just now playing at the MF Drive-In. Yeah. Dad would always say that a lot. Right. We provide affordable family entertainment. Yeah. And we do.
We do.
Yeah.
And then this is when the big windstorm of 2008 came and wiped us out.
Trying to see what was on that. I don't have my glasses on. What are the movies?
The movies?
On the sign.
This is Lord of the Rings and Clock Stoppers.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So when the drive-in screen blew down, that was a really transformational event, I guess you'd say. Dad and Mom were still somewhat involved. Dad got to the point where all he wanted to do was count the money the next morning. He really didn't want to have anything to do with anything else, which was fine at that age. And I was teaching school, and it was the first day back to school after Christmas break, I think. Mm-hmm. And the wind was just, I got up to go to school, and the wind was just howling, just roaring. And it looked different. It sounded different. So I went to school, and about 10 o'clock, they canceled all the schools, and we're sending everybody home. And so we're getting that organized and getting all the kids with their parents. And then my cell phone, I started hearing rumors that the screen blew down. And a friend of mine called me and said, hey, the screen blew down. So as soon as I got my last student out of there, I started to drive over here. And we had wind damage before, like part of the screen would break loose. And it was like putting a jigsaw puzzle back together. We get out our chainsaws, cut them down into sections we could manage, and just put it back up. But there's always a point on the highway coming from the north, from Washington, where I taught school, where you could see the screen. And I got to that point on the road, I couldn't see the screen. And in fact, this picture here would probably be the best first one. That's basically what I saw when I got out here. It was, there was one person who lived in a mobile home over there that saw it, and it had 4 very large poles. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't really get your arms around the bases of them. And he said the screen was just going like this, and 3 of the poles just came up out of the ground, and the 4th one kept struggling to stay, and it snapped, and then the whole thing just, and boom, and landed out in about the first row. And then the fence, the whole south side of the fence was gone. The back side of the fence was gone. There were pieces of tin. That mobile home guy, he had like somebody had thrown it like a spear, or stabbed into the side of his mobile home. If you'd have been out here when that was going on, you would have probably been decapitated by that flying tin. But then we had to start cleaning up. So that picture shows us out here.
And that's the fence.
And then, so I'm out there just picking up stuff. And then this lady is a friend of ours. And we just started I shouldn't say constantly, but a fairly steady stream of just community members. we were really deciding whether we were gonna. We were having family meetings, like, what are we gonna do? I mean, we were just cleaning it up, but people just kept coming out,
wanting to give us money and all kinds of stuff. And
we didn't take the money. We didn't want it.
No, but they were very passionate about it going back up. And my father-in-law was in the 70s. He was actually on vacation in Hawaii when this all happened. So
yeah, I called them up. I called them up, and I went and checked their house, and the backside of the roof of their house was gone. So my youngest sister lives in Hawaii, so they were over there. They would go over there every winter, Mom and Dad. So I called them up, and I said, we had a big windstorm. The screen blew down, and Mom and Dad were on. I wasn't over there, but they were on the phone together, and the screen blew down, and your backside of your house, the roof's gone. And Dad's like, oh, he's just commiserating about what to do. And Mom says, well, we don't have a business or a roof over our head. I guess we might as well stay in Hawaii. but Dad came home, but just the community just constantly coming out. You got to keep it going. You got to keep it going. And that was a huge decision because Dad had never borrowed a penny in his life until then. And the screen was significantly underinsured, which
most people don't know what to.
Yeah. And it's hard to know what it was going to cost to build a new screen. And so a friend of ours named Jeff over at the Wayside Market, he and Dad were very good friends. And Jeff and I are friends too, but he and Dad had a really special relationship. And Jeff, very involved with the Elks Club in Milton-Freewater, and he just got things going. And we had a huge work day out here. Obviously, we couldn't put the screen back up. We had to hire that, but we came out here, and Dad sat right out here in a chair with his cooler, and people are just all day coming in, and we just had this huge work crew, and we rebuilt that whole fence in one day, and all the stuff. So that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And then we had to find a company to. I guess I'm moving to other pictures, but yeah, there's the fence building party there, and then we hired a company. Selby was their family name, and they were descendants of families who went out, and that was their job. They went around the country in the 50s and built drive. A lot of the drive-in theaters were built in the 50s. The first one ever was built in 1933, but they really became a big deal in the 50s. But anyway, so they came out and they put that screen up. I was not out here for a lot of that because I was teaching, but it was quite an event to get that screen built. And then I think that's what all these are.
Mm-hmm. That's
yeah. So we opened back up and just had. Well, it was our first customer appreciation night. We just didn't charge anybody to get in, and it was just a big party. We had a lot of fun. Anyway, so that kind of made up our mind that because we were, I don't know that I'd even say 50-50. In our early meetings, we weren't going to do it, especially when Dad started figuring out how underinsured we were. But it's like I said, as soon as the people started coming out, we knew we needed to do it.
In 1958, there was 4,063 open drive-ins, and in 2007, there was only 405.
Yeah,
and I think now it teeters around 200.
Yeah, it depends on what you look at. Well, during COVID, a few opened back up. Mm-hmm. Drive-ins were the thing during COVID. I think the most reliable information I got, they said there were 433. But yeah, in the 50s, 60s, and when Dad and his brother got into it, you look at like the top grossing movies of all time, adjusted for inflation. Gone with the Wind is number one, but I think 7 of the 10 were in the 60s and the 70s. So they were in it at the right time. Dad and Mom raised a family basically on a 3-month-a-year job. We were open year round on the weekends, but that was a pretty good deal.
What do you think was the inspiration of your dad? Was it the nostalgia of the 1950s, and that was a great thing to do? Hey, or was there a passion for movies?
Well,
your family was always kind of in the...
Dad's family was from Minnesota. He was by far the youngest of 7 boys. And his parents had always been in some type of it. They had owned indoor theaters in the Midwest. They owned one of his older brothers owned a resort up near the Minnesota-Canadian border. So they'd always kind of been in that concept. And then when they moved out west, Dad was the only child still at home. They bought a hotel motel in the Willamette Valley in Salem and bought a indoor theater. So they'd always kind of been in that. And then Dad, by far the youngest, he was actually in college, and he'd come home during the summers and live in Dayton with his brother Lowell, who had the Dayton Drive-In. And that's where he started working there. And then he got...
Gordy, your other brother.
Yeah, then I had an Uncle Gordy who had another dad's older brothers. He had a drive-in theater in outside of Cashmere, Washington, between Cashmere and Leavenworth. So yeah, it's always kind of been in it. But Dad, out of college, from age 24 to 31, when he got married, he was a counselor at a juvenile prison in Salem. And then his brother approached him.
And I find it interesting. I think some of his distant relatives or some of his relatives owned a candy company in Minnesota called Spee's Candy Company.
The Fritzy Fresh Candy.
Fritzy Fresh. Yeah.
So they've always been in
some kind of...
Most of them in some type of entertainment or food service or things like that. But, yeah. When I think about this, because that was a life-changing, what would have happened if we hadn't have rebuilt the drive-in.
Right.
But
exactly.
We don't have to worry about trying to answer that. We have our summers,
Exactly.
No, it's all been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good memories. Many more to come.
Everybody's welcome.
Several grade schools that come out and do their celebrations every year.
Yeah, in fact, we have one tomorrow night.
We've got 4 big things coming up in the next couple of weeks. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the dumb maintenance question. I'm curious. I saw in the lot here
the ramps.
Are those? Do you maintain those, or is that just the way the ground is?
Well, that's the way it was built. Yeah. So the idea is the car comes up and sits on the ramp, and your car's at an angle so you can watch the movie. So yeah, that's intentional. And when the speaker posts were there, it was obvious. They pull up the speaker posts, and some of the drive-ins we've seen still have their speaker posts in. And I was not out here the day they installed the FM system. I'm a school teacher. My brother was a longtime excavator, and he used to keep his equipment out here. And so they took the backhoe and shoveled up all the speaker posts. Makes a lot look a lot cleaner. But it does create some confusion for the newer generations who come out here of where do I park?
Well, and everybody now parks backwards because they all have SUVs. So park backwards, open up the tailgate, or pull in backwards with your pickup truck and have your mattresses and everything. So it's a little bit different than it was in the 50s.
It is interesting for us. I mean, we've lived out here. I mean, literally for myself, my whole life. And so it's very common. But there's people that have never been to a place like this. Well,
we get people driving on this highway here that are coming from
wherever
Florida, and they're driving by this and they see a movie theater and they stop and they said, we've never seen this before. And I mean, those are fun things. We get that every summer. We'll get 1 or 2 that have never been to a drive-in before.
I had a little,
they're out, doing their vacation.
And a little Lori and I taught and she was our cook at the same school. We got to work together for quite a while. First day of school, I'm doing lunch duty, and this little kindergartner comes up to me and says he saw me at the big TV place. And I'm like, we didn't buy a TV. So I went in the kitchen. I said, we were at the TV store. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then I realized he was talking about here. I think he might say that too. And just
a lot of happiness out here. Our kids are so excited, and they're squealing and they're having a great time. And that's, for us, is what it's all. Our kids were raised out here too. So, I mean, it's a 3rd generation of, family, and it's been a good life.
A good question.
Mike's been out here since he was 8 months old.
Yeah.
Every summer since he was 8 months old.
Yeah.
So that's 65 years. That's a long time.
Cut.
Okay. I mean, we want this to be a place where the community in our local area and extended feel like they can come and just have a great time.
So, if the drive-in couldn't speak, so an abstract question, but if the drive-in could speak, what might it say?
I think, well, do you want to?
You answer.
I think it would say, everybody, hey, everybody's welcome here. And I've seen it all.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.